Hello. So today I'll be explaining my exploring your senses experiment. Um, so my first experiment, my hypothesis for this experiment was that when the sense of smell is inhibited, the sense of taste is impacted for the worst. I went about conducting this experiment by heating up some chicken dumplings and having different members of my family taste the dumplings with clothespins on their noses. The general consensus from the three of my family members who participated was that the dumplings tasted much more bland than when they took the clothespins off and their sense of smell wasn't inhibited. And that is much more about the texture of the dumpling than the actual taste when they had the clothespins on. The scientific explanation for the outcomes for this experiment is that taste buds only go so far in their impact on our perception of food. They help us detect major traits of food, yes, such as saltiness, sweetness, savoriness, etc. But the presence of the food odors is also a huge factor in our perception of food, and the lack thereof results in a completely different tasting experience. My second experiment, my hypothesis for this experiment was that taste buds deteriorate with age. So for this experiment, I blindfolded my 8-year-old sister and my 53-year-old dad and sat them down at the dining table. I fed them both pieces of bread, generously sprinkled with paprika, which is like a spice. My sister immediately spit out the bread and choked, yelling exclamations about how it was too spicy and how she needed water right away. My dad swallowed his bite no problem. While this could be due to a simple difference in spice tolerance, I think the more likely culprit is the deterioration of taste buds that occurs between the ages of 40 and 50. Studies have shown that during this time period, the number of taste buds vastly decreases, which would serve as a plausible explanation for why my father had no reaction to the bread. My third experiment, my hypothesis for this final experiment was that the tip of the tongue can taste sweets the fastest because of the tongue map I had learned in school. For this experiment, I sat my two sisters down at the table blindfolded and had them both stick out their tongues. I had 2 donuts, one in each hand. At the exact same time, I held one donut up to the tip of my older sister's tongue and one donut to the side of my younger sister's tongue. And mind you, the tip is supposed to detect sweetness and the side is supposed to detect saltiness, according to the map I learned. Surprisingly, my younger sister identified which category the food fell into faster. I'd given them sweet, salty, or sour, which would go against what the map had taught us. Next, I took a Sour Patch Kid in each hand and held one to my older sister's tongue on the side where saltiness is allegedly detected, and one to my younger sister's tongue where sourness is supposedly detected. Surprisingly, once again, the underdog came out on top, and my older sister, the one who's supposed to be only detecting saltiness, guessed the category. The scientific explanation for this experiment is that all parts of the tongue can taste all categories pretty much equally, and the map we learned in school is simply a myth. And all of the links that served as resources for my scientific explanations are linked in the description to this video. So.